The pottery studio was in a subterranean basement, and it was the perfect place for me to be quiet and away. And probably the beginnings of my understanding of myself as a monk and then as a priest, possibly. When I went to prep school for the first time, I was overwhelmed by all the activity and all the noise and all the students and all the requirements. And the pottery studio was in a subterranean basement and under the library. Nobody knew it was there, and it was the perfect place for me to be quiet and away. And probably the beginnings of my understanding of myself as a monk and then as a priest, possibly. I've never taken a class. No one's ever taught me. In 25 years, I'm self-taught. I went down to the pottery studio in Vermont alone to do pots, and I was barred from taking the class because we had spent the fall in England, in London, for my father's work. And so when I got back, the teacher said, "You can't join our pottery class. You won't be able to catch up." And I do not like being told what I can't do. So I went down at night. I got a key and I took books from the library, which was upstairs, which I should never have done because I wasn't signing them out. So I do a lot of things on the wheel that a professional potter would be appalled by. But I've developed that way. I mean, I'm feral as a potter. I'm a feral potter. It's definitely co-creativity. I think it's a lot. It's how I sort of see the way God works with humans. Which is why there's so much imagery in the Bible about, and in other holy literatures about potters and clay. There's a conversation going on between me and the clay, and I'm not just going to force the clay to do what I demand that it does, because there's some things the clay just won't and can't do. If I'm making a very large pot and the clay is too soft, the clay will collapse. If I bring the pot out too fast, without any support, the bowl will collapse, because I haven't respected the limits, the architectural limits of the clay. This is some of the pottery that I make, and I make a lot of it for myself. I used not to, but with the growth of the pottery studio, I started to realize I only had some store-bought plates that I got from when I left the monastery, and I wanted my own pots in my own kitchen. As I was making recipes for friends who came over, this table expands to seat 12, and as I made plans for hosting dinner parties, I started making the pots for the menus. One of my favorite recipes is cassoulet, French cassoulet, so I made myself some cassoulet dishes so that I could bake them off individually. And then I realized one day I was having some friends over and we wanted to have pasta. We were going to have a pasta party, and different sauces and lots of wine, and I didn't have any pasta bowls, and the big plates I had would make the pasta go cold, so I made myself some pasta bowls. I'm a Christian, so Jesus is who I follow, and when Jesus said, "Do this in remembrance of me" with bread and wine, he wasn't talking about what we do in church. He was talking about a group of friends just enjoying each other and loving each other and drinking wine and eating bread and eating food, and men and women and children and laughter and crying and sobbing and grieving and hoping and all of the things that meals are supposed to make happen. These pieces up here are all the pieces from the Canterbury Shaker Village. As a craftsperson, as an artisan, as an artist, I need a way to sell my pots. I do. I don't really want to do the marketing myself. I want to spend my time making the pottery, and I want to drop it off somewhere. And so I've chosen the Canterbury Shaker Village as that place. There are no other places where I sell my pots. But my first idea for this pottery, my first idea for the way I could express myself as an artist with integrity, was to find a place that sold pottery where the mission of the place matched me and my mission and my philosophy of life. So it's not just pottery that you use and throw in the dishwasher or the microwave, which is great, and it is that, but it's also an icon to a different choice of living. Finding a way to be an artist and a potter, simple though it may be, and a place that matches that is a godsend to me. I think in part, at least the people I've talked to who've bought my pottery here, they're looking for something to take home that reminds them to slow down, that reminds them that there are alternate ways of life to the one they've chosen. Their eye falls on a batter bowl that they picked up at the Canterbury Shaker Village, and they're reminded that they could slow the morning down and make pancakes as a family. The state Senate and the House in New Hampshire both have chaplains, and it just happens to be that at this time that we're both friends with each other. Our job is to open session weekly as they begin their deliberations with a tiny meditation of a few sentences and an opening prayer. It is not in any way really faith-based. And I also am very careful not to be talking about anything that they're dealing with politically. So they're just talking about matters of faith and communications and effective communicating, so that I'm a pastor and a support to the work they're doing interrelationally amongst themselves. The prayer and the meditation and the pottery and the meals with friends and the cooking are all connected. I'm not a perfect person, and I will admit that quite quickly, but I try to live a life that's at least got some prayer and lots of friends and some good food and some pottery and some good work. If you're centered and you're making good decisions out of that center, then I find that life works better. And pottery's strength is in the centering of the clay. I mean, quite frankly, that's how it's connected. I mean, I center myself here, and then the pottery over there is where I center the clay, and I sort of redo that centering into the pot. And you don't make a pot without centering the clay. I mean, if the clay's not centered, that pot's not going to happen. It's just not possible. I'm a potter more than I am anything else. I'm a potter and I'm a friend. And none of us are getting out of this alive, you know. When I die, I want my gravestone to say he was a good potter and a good cook, and he loved his friends desperately. And he tried to live a life of truth and integrity. And he fell down and he got up, and he fell down and he got up, and he fell down and he got up, and that's life.